Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar and Q&A with Eric Edmeades. And while we're waiting for Eric to join us in a few seconds, I would like to just tell you that this webinar is going to be a Q&A.
I'm here.
You're here. Great. You arrived. Perfect. So this is going to be a Q&A for people who are in business and sales and marketing. So you're going to get a lot of answers for maybe questions that you're having. And I met Eric for about 1 year ago, and I have listened to him many times. And Eric is the best one to introduce himself. So please, Eric, tell us a little bit.
Hey, Daniel. Thank you very much. Sorry for the delays there. We had a few webinar launching issues and technical things, so I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to introduce myself. For those of you who know me, hello, it's great to see you. And for those of you who don't, I am Eric Edmeades, and I'm really rather more an entrepreneur than I am a speaker, but I spend a lot of my time these days working with entrepreneurs to improve their business lives. And the reason really that I do that is that, I've been really, I've been willing to take a lot of risks and try things and fail at this and experiment and so on. And one thing, I'm very the fortune that I've had in business in the variety of different companies that I've been involved with would happen if other people and shared with me and mentored me and provided me with the sort of wisdom of their experience. So I kind of arrived at a point in my life about 15 years ago where I had achieved enough what we now call business freedom in my first company that I really had a desire to give back. And so at that stage of my life, I joined something in England that they call the Prince's Trust, and I became a business mentor. And I really just loved doing it. It was really cool. What they would do is give a young entrepreneur a little bit of startup capital, and then they would assign them to one of the mentors like me. And I would meet with my young startup entrepreneurs, say once a week, and we'd have lunch and kind of work through their marketing issues or their growth issues or how to raise money. And it was just, I really found it really gratifying. And so a number of years ago, I decided that I really wanted to do that as a largely a full-time focus. And so while I still have some business interests today, this is my real largest focus is traveling around the world and connecting with entrepreneurs and really helping them bridge the gap. I know what happened for me when I started my first business is that I was under an illusion. And the illusion was that I would leave my job and start a company and have phenomenal amounts of freedom that I didn't have when I had my job. And it felt like that for the first couple of weeks, while I was designing business cards and websites, and it was all very much fun until, reality hit. It was like I have to pay the rent and I have to ship stuff. And suddenly I realized that I had way less freedom as an entrepreneur than I did as an employee. And inside me, I knew that wasn't right. Inside me, I knew that being an entrepreneur and being a business owner actually was the path to freedom. It's just that there were some distinctions I was missing. There were some strategies that I was missing. And so over the next couple of years, I would do everything I could to learn those strategies. I read countless books. I got every mentor that I could ever find. The number of times I went up to somebody and said, "Can I buy you lunch?" And they knew damn well the reason I wanted to buy them lunch was because I was going to pick their brain about how they got their success. And so I really consider it a great privilege of my life today that I get to go back and help people through some of those same things that other people help me with. So that's the unrehearsed introduction.
Thank you, Eric. So you're talking a lot about business freedom, and can you explain a little bit deeper? What is business freedom, and what does that mean?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to give you both a short answer and then a not quite as short answer. First, the short answer is that business freedom is what happens when you're a business owner rather than being self-employed. That's the short answer. But let me explain that with a little more depth. I think that there's a big distinction, there's a big difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. And to me, the difference is this. No matter how big your company, whether you're on your own, you have 5 employees, 10 employees, 100 employees, 1,000 employees, if your company still fundamentally requires you to be there, if the company could not operate without you, then you're self-employed. In other words, you've created your own job, and the company's dependent on you, requires you, and so you're self-employed. Whereas another kind of entrepreneurship says, I own a business, and while I might enjoy working inside that business, while I might love going to work every single day, I don't have to be there. And if I don't have to be there, then I have really what we call business freedom. And that is that I have the freedom to come and go as I please. I have the freedom to work on things that are my passion instead of doing a lot of things in the course of the day that I don't really enjoy doing. And really, the reason I'm so focused on this is, frankly, I really kind of feel like life is really short. You know, I remember watching this interview once with Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali says, you know what, he says something like this, I'm paraphrasing, he says, how old are you today? And then based on how old are you today, you take a look at your whole lifespan, and you go, well, you've lived this much of it, so that's what's left. And you go, now how much of that do you plan to sleep? Well, about a third, so that's what's left. And then you go, out of that third that's left, how much of that are you going to work? Well, about 80% of it. So that's what's left. Now, out of that that's left, how much of that time are you going to stand in line at the dry cleaners and at the bank and at the waiting room at the dentist? About how much? Oh, that's how much life you have left. Now, that to me is a very scary notion. And so it became really one of the ways that I realized you could double somebody's lifespan. You could actually double their lifespan, was to get to a place where that big chunk that they spend at work was still life for them, that they loved it. It was a real passion for them. And I think for many employees and for many entrepreneurs, work is work. They look forward to the weekends. And I got to tell you, I like Fridays. I do. I really like Fridays. Not because of the weekends particularly. I like Fridays because everybody around me is so happy. See, to me, whether it's Friday or Monday, it's kind of irrelevant. I love what I do. But I love Fridays because people are happy. And the reason people are happy is they feel like, the only freedom they have is over the weekend. And I think that as a business owner, the best kind of freedom in the world is where you live, where you just don't have to be there. And so I really like working to help entrepreneurs reach that place.
Yeah, and I think many of us entrepreneurs and self-employed people are really recognizing themselves in what you're describing. You're doing all the different things and that kind of stuff, and I definitely can recognize myself in it. And it's quite scary when you really put it up the time that you actually maybe focus and really doing what you really enjoy. So what does it take to set up and start working for business freedom?
Well, I think there are a lot of different things that there are a lot of different things that are required to do that, and one of the very early ones is vision. In other words, somebody has to take the step. It's like, I'm going to start my business, I'm going to start my destiny, I'm going to start my future. And for some people, what that means is that they really need to quit their job, burn the boats, and start their company. For other people, it means that what they want to do is get something part-time going, and they want to, get some momentum under their belt and that sort of stuff. But the first real thing is take the step. Is jump out there and be willing to take the risk and take the step. Look, what holds a lot of people back is this perception that they have job security. And I'm talking now about people before they start their business. And so what we really begin to realize in today's day and age is there's no such thing as job security. It really just isn't. Like, the only job security there really is in making yourself an inherently valuable person in the world of business and the workforce. And then you've got job security, because no matter what happens to one given job, you can always get another one or start another business. Now, assuming that most of the people on this call have either made that jump or are ready to make that jump, then the next step is really be clear on what it is that you want. And so for many people, when they start a business, all they know is they want to have a business. They're not necessarily as clear as they're not really as clear as they could be about what they want that business to be about. And I don't mean the product or the service, I mean about their life. So sometimes somebody starts a business and their primary focus is, how do I pay the rent? I gotta make money this month. I gotta eat. And so month by month, their main goals are survival. And what I want to suggest is that the main goal should be to thrive, not to survive. And so with that in mind, one of the very most powerful things that a young or new entrepreneur or an existing entrepreneur that's kind of on the treadmill can begin to do is make a decision that they will have business freedom one day. That in itself is a massive part of the game, and many business owners never make that decision. So, you know, what I want to suggest is that wherever, and if any of you are watching this right now, and you either are thinking of starting a business or you're in one, what I want you to think about right now is, when would you like to have business freedom? Like, forget what you believe about the world, forget about all that stuff. Just in rough terms, if you could press a button and have business freedom, when would you like that to be? When would you like to be in a place where going to work was optional? And that optional doesn't mean you don't go. It just means you go because you want to go. It means you focus on what you want to focus on. And it means that if you choose not to go, your business will continue to grow and operate and run safely without you. When would you like that truth to be the truth? When would you like to have business freedom? And what's interesting is that once you kind of decide when you would like that to be, your mind will already start looking for ways to help moving you there. But if you haven't even decided on that as a goal, then why would your mind start solving the problem for you? And I was very, very blessed that when I started my first company, 27, I think, years old, I knew from day one that I wanted business freedom. I knew from day one that my intention was that one day the business would be able to operate smoothly without me. I knew that from the beginning. And I'm really glad that I knew that, because it meant that so many of the decisions that I would make, so many of the opportunities that I would either accept or reject, would be filtered through the knowledge that my goal was to extract myself from the business.
Good. And so vision and decision, when you're going to be and have business freedom.
Absolutely. If I could just add one thing, we've enabled the chat window on the side, and I know there's a couple of little issues with webinars, so not all of you, I think, have access to that chat window, unfortunately. I apologize for that. If you do have access to it, please feel free. I think Jessica's just popped a note in there. Feel free to pop in a question, and she'll let us know what your questions are. I prefer when these things are conversations, because I can make some assumptions about what it is that you might want to learn or what it is that I might be able to help you with. But it's a whole lot easier if you actually tell me what it is. One thing you should know, that everything I'm saying right now, you're hearing about 90 seconds later. So rather than waiting and asking a question when I said, hey, ask a question, we'll have to wait a minute and a half for that. So if you've got stuff you want to talk about, feel free to pop it in there. And I know Daniel already got some questions from people in advance anyway, so we're going to keep going as we are. Yeah. Daniel, over to you.
Good. Thank you. And I really like the thing that you said about decisions, because my philosophy is that we are where we are due to our decisions that we have making, and I really enjoyed it and really liked the thing that you said, that having a decision when you want to be in business freedom, and that's going to help you take right decisions, hopefully. At least you have a focus where you want to go. So that's really good. And
you know, Daniel, on that theme, I think there's a very important thing for people to realize, and you know, this is a concept that's talked about often and credited to Einstein on a regular basis. I don't know who originally came up with it, but I think it's brilliant. And the concept really is that you know, whatever level of consciousness, whatever method of thinking, whatever vibration of thinking a person used to get themselves to a certain point, they're not going to be able to break out of that in that same type of thinking, in that same type of consciousness. And so, for example, if somebody has arrived at a certain point in their business and they're wondering why they can't break through a plateau, or they're kind of getting to this, wow, I want to learn to delegate, or I want to learn how to grow the business and transition into business freedom. One of the issues is, and this is really important, is that the way you make decisions right now is what led you to where you are. And so one of the core things that we have to figure out is how to change that level of thinking, how to change our beliefs, and how to change our experience, so that when opportunities come along, we start making different decisions. one of the ways that I often like to really depict this is, kind of a little bit of a joke. Imagine if somebody like Richard Branson or Tony Robbins woke up in your bed tomorrow. Not the way many of you are thinking, but in your life. Like, what if one of those people woke up in your life tomorrow, in your body, with your friends, with your business, with your contacts, with your experience? The only thing they had that was different was their psychology. So the question I then would put to you is, where would you be a week later, a month later, a year later, with all your resources? They have the same conditions as you, but all they have is a different mindset. They have a different level of comfort. They have a different level of experience. So what I would suggest is that your life would end up in a very different trajectory because you've changed your thought process. And so that's a big thing that I think entrepreneurs have to constantly be working on. As an example, one of the challenges is quite often people run into kind of comfort levels of growing their business. I've experienced this where in my first business I was very comfortable to grow about a $5 million a year business, but I felt it as we approached that level. I was like, oh, I don't have experience growing it any bigger than this, and how do I cope with that, and so on. And I'll tell you that what I did at that stage is I actually just sold the company. I knew that the next level of business was uncomfortable to me, and I took a look and said, I can have this cash, and that's uncomfortable, so I sold the business. But the next time around that kind of thing happened to me, I was growing a business, and I ran into the same issue, that the business was approaching my level of comfort in terms of being the primary owner of the business, and I knew that I wanted to grow this business. I knew this business had bigger potential. And so what I then did is brought in a partner who had been working with significantly larger businesses. And so his comfort level, his experience, his psychology, his decision-making process was suited to those larger businesses. So first thing is that allowed our business to grow bigger. Second thing is it allowed me to learn from that experience. Then we started another business, and we had a similar situation where we developed a really, really cool environmental simulation system for training people, for those of you who are Star Trek fans, like a kind of holodeck type environment for training, say medics or soldiers or police or first responders or what have you. And suddenly we were in this, holy cow, this kind of a project would require like government funding and all these things that are outside of our experience. So what did we do? We went and recruited somebody who had all those things in their comfort level, and all of a sudden those things were moving along really nicely. So I think a big part of this is recognizing that the only thing that really holds anybody back, really the only thing that holds us back, is our own psychology, our own beliefs, and our own experience. And so the question is, what can we be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis to improve our experience, to improve our psychology, and to change any limiting beliefs that are holding us back from growing our business to its full potential?
Yeah, good. And one question that probably pops up in many people's head when you're speaking like this and talking about business freedom, and you have a business, and for me, for example, I'm self-employed, and I am the brand and the company. And maybe you're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a therapist or a chiropractor or something like that. So how can we get more business freedom?
Yeah, Daniel, this is a really important question. But I think that even more than that, I think that let's answer another question first, and that is, okay, why should you do it? So, because that quite often what happens for me is that people that are in that practitioner space, doctors, chiropractors, dentists, coaches, consultants, and so forth, and what happens quite often with them is they're like, well, why? And my answer is this, that even if you absolutely love what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and so why do you want business freedom? I love it. Why would I want it? Well, why you would want it is life happens. And we don't always know what's going to happen when life happens. And conditions are going to happen, and family emergencies are going to happen, and things are going to take place that you might need to not go to work for a while. And if you don't have business freedom and you have to take 2 weeks off to handle a bunch of family emergencies, what happens to your business? So one of the very most important reasons for having business freedom is so that you can be there for your life, so that you can be there for your family, so that you can be there when circumstances take place. So that's an important thing. The other thing is that sometimes people say this to me, well, Eric, I mean, that sounds like really complicated, growing a big business, and
I don't want all that headache, and and so on. And what's really fascinating is that one of my favorite stories about this is about a couple in England that were really good dentists, and one of the things they did is they built a big dentist practice by being really good at marketing and attracting lots of other dentists into their practice. Now, it's a longer story that I share at our live programs, but here's the short version. They had, I think at the time, 40 dentists in their practice. So if they didn't do any dentistry work, they were still going to live very well, economically speaking. And so I was telling a story once at a live event in Las Vegas, Nevada, and one of the guys in the audience was a chiropractor, and he said, yeah, but I don't want to have to manage a big company like them. And so I asked this question. I said, who do you think is spending more time managing their company, you or them? And he goes, well, them. And I go, well, hang on a moment. In your company, who has to negotiate with landlords? Who pays the bills? Who hires and fires everybody? He goes, me. And I go, with the Houstons, who do you think handles that stuff? And he suddenly got it. They had staff. They had managers. In other words, they spent a significantly less, they spent a much lower amount of time managing their business than he ever did. And in fact, if they wanted to go away for a year, either for leisure or for an emergency or for any reason at all, their business would continue to operate smoothly, and they don't have to be there. And so, of course, my chiropractor friend suddenly got it. He's like, I'm self-employed, they're business owners. So this is really important. Now, the challenge is that quite often, to your question, Daniel, people say, well, how could I do that? I mean, I'm the practitioner. It is me. The business is me. Well, there are two things that have to happen. One is you got to let go of the ego. You got to let go of the ego of what's happening. And what I mean by that is that when somebody goes, yeah, but I have to be there. It's all about me. Let go of that for a minute. And ask yourself, what if it wasn't? What could you do so that it doesn't always have to be about you? So in the example of these dentists from England, they realized it wasn't them. It was about dentistry. By the way, they still, at least when I was a client there, they still did dentistry work. They went to work every day and fixed teeth. Why do you suppose they did that? Well, because they love it, right? They love it. And so what we have to first do is separate our ego from the whole issue and say, all right, so what if it didn't have to be about me? Now, the next step after that is to begin to look at different business models where other people have created business freedom doing what you're doing, because they've done it. There are people who are very successful coaches who have built coaching practices where they don't have to go to work anymore because they've got people working with them. There are chiropractors, there are dentists, there are lawyers and doctors. There's a variety of practice-based people that have built really great businesses by leveraging various aspects of their business. I'm going to give you one tangible example, and we'll go to any other specific questions about this. There was a chiropractor that I was going to see, also not the same chiropractor, also happened to be in Las Vegas. And I went to see him one day, and he really had done a great job of beginning to move toward business freedom. So he didn't have it yet, but he was well on the way. And here's what he realized, is that when he was working with clients, he had to spend something like 45 minutes with each client, because he, in order to bill them a reasonable amount of money, he had to actually sit with them and talk with them and connect with them. He couldn't just kind of have 15-minute sessions and still charge them the same as they'd be paying for an hour-and-a-half massage somewhere. And then, when the economy took a big dive, he started to suffer. And the reason he started to suffer is exactly that. People were taking a look and saying, I can spend $150 on a massage for 90 minutes, or I can spend $150 on a half-an-hour chiropractic treatment. And so people had limited funds, and they were going for the massage because it was pleasurable and it was longer, and he was losing business. So then what he realized is that he only ever really needs about 15 minutes with a client, if that. Matter of fact, a repeat client coming in, he might only need 5 or 6 minutes with them. So the problem is, again, is somebody's going to spend $150 for an hour-and-a-half massage or $150 for a 5-minute chiropractic adjustment. So this wasn't working for him either. And so then what he realized is that he could hire some massage therapists that would come and work in his office. So what he did is he had 4 offices, and 3 of them were set up with massage beds in them. And so now what would happen is a client would come in, they'd walk into his office, he would spend 5 minutes finding out what was going on with them. Then he'd say, okay, I'm going to walk you over to this room, and Jennifer's going to give a massage and soften up that area, and then I'm going to come back and do the adjustment. So he spent 5 minutes with them, put them off in the room, they get the massage, Then he sees the next client, puts them in the room, gets a massage, next client. He's got 3 clients on the go at the same time. And every client is feeling personal connection, every client's having a great experience, and he's able to see 3 times as many clients. But also now, a huge amount of his workload isn't being done by him. In other words, he's only doing the part that he actually really likes to do, and that's A, the diagnosis, that's like talking to the client, finding out what's wrong, and B, the adjustments. And here was the bonus. Do you think people are easier to adjust after they've had a massage? Yep. So even this time I'm doing the adjustments. It was really neat to watch him doing this. So in each case when somebody's building a practice, what we want to take a look at is saying is what can we leverage in this practice? How can we begin to build this business so it isn't about us? Daniel, in your business, in the business of events and coaching and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you see it all the time. In our business, we have, obviously I'm out there teaching Inception marketing all the time, and I can't be in every city teaching it. And so one day my wife says to me, well, wait a minute. Why don't you create a digital course for everybody so that people all over the world, it's so fascinating to me because now that's exactly what happens. People from all over the world log onto the system, watch our video, buy the training from us, watch the videos, and I don't even need to be there. So in other words, in that one area, I start developing business freedom.
Yeah, good. And what would the first steps be if you're like you're starting from zero in your business to accept vision and decision? How can you start changing your mindset and maybe do some actions?
So I want to address this in twofold. One thing I wanted a quick message, Jessica, I am not seeing the chat window for some reason, so if you could bring them into me or something, that'd be great. Daniel, there's 2 different things. I'm going to give you one that's a little bit esoteric and then one that's a little bit more practical. On the esoteric level, I'm a firm believer that a person's beliefs influence their entire experience of life. In other words, there are millions of things going on around you all the time, and you don't notice the vast majority of them, and your beliefs govern which ones you are going to notice. So in other words, if somebody believes that they're fundamentally lucky, they're going to see evidence all the time of them being lucky, because that evidence is always around you. On the other hand, if somebody believes that they're fundamentally unlucky, then they're always going to be able to find evidence to support that. And so in other words, our beliefs can be very easily self-fulfilling. So one of the core things that we have to do in entrepreneurship is hang around with people that have really strong, positive, supportive entrepreneurial beliefs. That's just a very key, a very key thing to do to help change your beliefs. The one way to identify that there are beliefs that might be holding you back in your business is just ask this question: how would my business be if things were different? How would my business be if things were different? And you know what's really interesting is that then the next question is you ask yourself, what things would have to be different? And then you'll realize, oh wow, I believe this and this and this and that, and it's like, wow, you start to go, wow, I didn't realize I was held back by that. I didn't realize that I believed the only way to be successful was to work hard all the time. Well, a lot of people believe that, but guess what? Aren't there plenty of cases out there where it's not true? Aren't there plenty of people that are hanging out? I mean, Daniel, no kidding. The reason that I was a little bit late because when we were setting up this webinar jam, I had just come in from an hour walk on the beach with the surf crashing and what have you. This is not work to me. This is fun. So of course there are people out there that are working and it's not hard work for them. So if that's true for them, isn't it possible it might also be true for you? So that's the more esoteric answer in terms of changing psychology. But here's something really practical to do. And now we teach this in much more detail in our workshops. I want to give you a little taster of it. And that's something that we call mini exits. And mini exits are based on the idea that I want you, okay, let me back up. Most people, when they start their first business, they had a job, and they quit job, and then they start a business, and they realize that they actually have like 15 jobs, right? They have to do everything. And so mini exits is a system that we teach around showing you how to quit all of your jobs. Not just the first one you quit, but then all the jobs inside the company. And so one of the ways that the introduction of this is really simple. What you do is you create what looks like an organizational chart for your business. and you create that organizational chart for your business, but you put no names in it. It's just the roles. It's like, I have a managing director, I have a finance director, I have an operations director, I have a marketing director, I've got salespeople, I've got this and this and this. And by the way, you may be thinking, I don't have any of those people. Doesn't matter. You write it the way your business will be eventually, because guess what? All those jobs have to be done today anyway. Even if you're all by yourself, somebody has to run the company, somebody has to do the accounting, somebody has to make sure that things happen, somebody has to go market and sell stuff, right? All those jobs are there. And so what you do is you write out all the roles that are happening in your business, and then you write in the names of all the people that are doing those roles. And so, for example, if you're all on your own, you put your name in every single box. If you have 2 or 3 employees, you populate the boxes with their names. Then you start looking for trouble spots. And again, we go into a lot more detail in this. There's all kinds of neat psychological tools and specific strategies. You know, some people are like, oh, I could never give up the accounting where I have to do that. I hate it, but I could never give it up. I guarantee you can give it up. It'd take minutes to show you how. And what the first step in this, though, is to take a look at all the boxes that your name is in that you really wish that it wasn't. So you take a look at all the boxes and you go, oh, look, God, I wish my name wasn't there. Circle it. Oh, I don't want my name over there. Circle it. And you're doing is preparing to do those jobs. In fact, you're serving notice. You're serving yourself notice. I want you to know that I plan to resign from this, and I plan to resign from that. And again, what's fascinating is that once you've done that, once you've decided that, you put yourself in a really powerful situation, because your mind, your resources, your team, your peers, your mentors, all will begin to understand what your goals are, and then they'll start all coming into alignment to help you get there.
Great, good. Like firing yourself. Saying like you're fire marketing, and then you hire somebody or get somebody to market more effectively. And regarding marketing, you're talking a lot about Inception marketing. What is it, and why is it so powerful? And also, how can you start thinking more Inception marketing and doing that?
So in Inception marketing, I think one of the things, especially because I think about 90% of the people on this webinar are from Sweden, because that's really where we were focusing it. And so as strong as English as a language in Sweden, I just want to talk about the word inception for a moment. The word inception, in its literal sense, means beginning. You know, the inception of a business is the day the idea popped up to start the business. And so inception is the beginning. And so the idea of inception marketing is to create marketing campaigns that put the idea of buying your product or service into the client's mind, so that the beginning of that idea happens in their mind rather than outside. In other words, it's not about pushing them to buy something, it's about helping them to realize that they want to buy it. And it's a very different energy. There are many reasons that Inception marketing is very powerful, but I think we have time to do 2 of them that I can really give justice to right now. The one of them is that, frankly, there is so much marketing out there, there's so much noise out there, that people just, frankly, you know, they're just not even seeing marketing anymore. Got to the place where they just fast forward through the commercials, they don't see the posters, they don't see the banners. The average person spends less than 6 seconds when they land on a website. In the minute something looks like marketing, we filter it out and it's gone. And so one of the core components of Inception marketing is to recognize that fact and to be significantly more strategic in the development of what we call engagement pitches. So what we recognize is that there are, you know, if you have 1,000 prospects that you could potentially be selling to, most people have designed all of their marketing to try to attract people that are already interested in buying what they're selling. You know, for example, if you take somebody who is a chiropractor, well, what you'll see their business card says chiropractor, and their brochure says chiropractic services, special offer, and it's all about chiropractor, which means they're going to do a great job at attracting anyone who's looking for a chiropractor. But what if they wanted to be a lot more strategic about that? So, for example, let's say they were standing at a conference, at a biz conference, and they had 1,000 people in front of them, and they said, I'm going to talk all about chiropractics. The only people that are going to stay for that talk are the people that are right now interested in chiropractics, that are looking for a chiropractor. And that's probably less than 10% of the room. On the other hand, if the chiropractor stood up at the top and he said, you know what? Today what I'm going to talk to you about is getting an extra 25% productivity out of every single one of your days, and I'm going to make sure that you don't have pain in your neck and shoulders when you go to bed at night. How many people are staying now for the talk? Right? It's a very different energy. Now that's just off the top of my head, but it's just an idea of approaching it from the perspective of creating engagement rather than pushing and trying to sell. So one of the things that makes Inception marketing so powerful is that we open up the funnel in a much bigger way. I'm going to give you one more example of this at a more strategic level. Daniel, as you know, because you've been to our program, we have a phenomenal program on public presentations and speaking in business and all this kind of stuff. Now, I have friends that have services and programs like that all through America and in Europe and so on. And, you know, they're friends, and we're like, you know, we have that sort of friendly co-opetition model. We care about each other's businesses, and we don't really view it as competition. Most of them market their speaking businesses as speaking businesses. They're out there going, hey, come and learn about public speaking, which is great. Anyone interested in public speaking is automatically going to go and go to their programs. But in our case, we've done it a little bit differently, because what we're doing is we're going out there and teaching people really fundamentally powerful models of entrepreneurship and powerful models of marketing that change their business lives, which creates a lot of credibility and authority. When somebody comes to one of our programs and like 3, 4, 5 months later they have like more freedom and their business is growing really well, they're like, wow, this is really, you know, there's a lot of credibility created by that. Well, then what happens is we then talk to them about a really powerful marketing paradigm. And that's this really bizarre attraction that an audience gives to anybody who's standing on stage. Like if you have a singer or a dancer, an actor, a musician of any kind, when they stand on stage, there's a strange crowd type attraction that is automatically given to that person. We call it the stage effect. So then we educate our clients on the stage effect and how to use it. And then all of a sudden, all of our clients want to go to speaking programs, even people who previously never thought before they had any interest in public speaking. So it was inceptive. We didn't tell them they needed to speaking. We didn't tell them all the features and benefits of speaking programs. What we did is educated them as to the power in their marketplace and how much it could do for them. Then they decided they wanted it. You see, so that's where it gets really powerful, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think I kind of distracted my answers, but does that answer your question, Daniel?
Yeah, I would say so. Do you have any questions popped up from any of the viewers?
Yeah, I've got a question here from Jennifer, and Jennifer says, by the way, thank you, Jennifer. Nice to see you here on the webinar. She says, the biggest challenge I face as a startup owner is that corporate clients have zero sympathy for our cash flow issues that are caused by their long delays in issuing orders, signing off on projects, and paying invoices on time. Wow, Jen, and you are so right about this. It's a big issue, and so I want to give you a couple strategies to think about how to deal with this. The first thing is relationship. Now, I had a business in England many years ago that did wireless networks and mobile computers and data capture systems for retail management. I started the business in my living room, and over the next several years, I grew it into quite a sizable little business with maintenance services and all that stuff. And when we got involved in doing maintenance services, our biggest clients were, guess what, big corporates. We're talking, and not only big corporates, Jennifer, I'm talking retailers. And if you think that generally corporates are unsympathetic, wow, retailers, they are tough. I mean, if you can get paid within 90 days, you're doing well. They're really, really tough. And so, and what happened is that we found ourselves in this business where most of our clients were really slow to sign contracts and really slow to pay us. What we then found is that when we had a really personal relationship with the key decision makers in those companies, it had a massive influence on the way they dealt with ordering of issues and payment terms. And I'm going to give you one example that blew me away. Still to this day, 20 years later, I still think of it and it shocks me. We landed a massive contract with one of the biggest retailers in the UK, a very prestigious department store, and 250,000 pounds. So, you know, at that time, that was about $500,000 contract. And they were really negotiating tough on the terms. Normally, those contracts, we would try to get them as a prepaid annual contract because we have to invest so much in parts and people and all that stuff. But there was no way that these retail companies would do that. They negotiated, and they got us to a place where they would pay us quarterly in arrears, right? So not annually up front, but after 3 months we get our first payment and so on. And we're like, you know what? It's such a big contract, we'll figure it out. I'll figure out a way to do it. But in the meantime, he had developed a very good relationship with one of the key directors in the business. Now, this is a large publicly traded company, so it blew me away that this mattered. But we developed a pretty good relationship with him. And one day he called me at my office, and he said, hey, Eric, I know what it's like to start a business. I've got lots of friends that are entrepreneurs, and I just want you to know we cleared your annual payment yesterday. No kidding, entire payment. And of course, that totally changed the landscape of our business for the next several years because that huge amount of cash came in up front. I will tell you that, I mean, it's not easy to cultivate that. It doesn't get cultivated overnight, but it is a really important reason. It's a very powerful reason for developing as warm and friendly and connected relationships as you can with clients that are in those situations. Now, that's the really great long-term strategic way to try to work that out, and it won't always work. No, it just won't. It will work occasionally. Another way to try this, Jennifer, is think in these terms. What's most important to them? And what's most important to them is cash flow. Frankly, the reason that corporates do this is, no kidding, it's really fast. If you do the math on this, it'll blow you away. If they owe, say, $1 million in a month, say they owe $1 million, or what would that be, like 6 million kroner, let's say. Let's say they own 6 million, whatever. The thing is that if they can delay that for a month, they're making interest on that for that month. That's really what it's about. I mean, they're making money by dragging out their cash flow because they're keeping their average balances up and earning interest on it. So then you have to think, oh, well, if that's true, then really what this is about is money. And so what you can then use is some mechanisms like invoice discounting or bonuses for prepayment. So rather than trying to penalize them for being late, because most of them just never go for that, right? They're like, no, not going to pay the penalty. You want to do business with us? Just the way it is. But the other way you can do it is when you send the invoice, what you can do is say, hey, you know what? There's a 6% discount for on-time payment. Now, I realize that involves creating a discount. I would generally mark my prices up by 6 before doing this. But you will find that sometimes large corporates, when it just gets down to the bean counters, they're going to go, hey, we can save 6% on this one. We're only going to make 3%, so what the hell, let's do that. And you may find you get faster payment processing that way. There are some other things, you could go on about this for a while, but I hope that those two things give you some, give you some ideas and maybe give you a little bit of help. Daniel, we've got some more here. Another one, I don't get the name hasn't come through, but it's many successful entrepreneurs have made big mistakes on their way to their success. Have you had any oops and mistakes you learned that you can share with us? Wow. I have some major mistakes I can share with you. I saw in the news the other day, I don't know how big basketball is in Sweden, but I think it was, Jessica, maybe you can tell me on Skype, is it Kobe Bryant? I think the other day they said that he had set a new record for the most misses. He's like now the third highest number of missed basket shots in the history of basketball or something. And I think to myself, isn't that funny? One of the most successful basketball players in the world and gets a headline for having a record for the most misses. What's really interesting is, again, another sports issue, and I don't know how big baseball is in Sweden, but perhaps people have heard of Babe Ruth. For the longest time, he had the record for the most home runs, but what most people didn't know is he also had the record for the most strikeouts. Well, I'll tell you now, in business, I've been going for it. I'm going for both records. I've made lots and lots of mistakes. In fact, I'll give you a little plug that we're launching in January a video series that we've been working on for some time called 99 Business Mistakes I've Made So You Don't Have to. But in the short term, there are so many that I just want to offer a couple. One of my favorite ones that I think quite a lot about is this. Is a very common mistake, especially in smaller or newer businesses, is when you're building a team or constructing a team, is to build a team of people that you like and that are a lot like you already. I know this doesn't sound like a mistake, but it really, really is. The fact is that businesses require cross-pollination of skills, require a variety of skills. And so, for example, when two creative people get together to start a business, be in business together, or one creative person attracts another creative person in as a partner, well, hang on a second. Here's something we know about creative people. Creative people really love starting new projects. They don't like finishing things very much. So now you have two people that like to start stuff, and not anybody likes to finish them. And so one of the very common mistakes that I've made in the past is hiring people that I liked, that I felt synergy with, and that I realized later, wow, lots of similar skills here. And then I'll offer one more because it's so related to that, and that's this. That if you're a basically good person, like if you are trustworthy, you do what you say you're going to do, you're an honest person, here's one problem that you might have from time to time. You make the assumption that everybody else is just like you. See, I've done this so many times. I know that if I tell you I'm going to follow through on this, I know I'm going to follow through. And so if you tell me you're going to follow through, I go, well, that's the model of the world. They said they're going to follow through. I know I would follow through. Great, everybody's going to follow through. Except for one problem. There are some people out there that are not going to follow through. And if you're fundamentally trustworthy, you're going to make a natural assumption that most people are also trustworthy. And so the challenge that can come up with that is that you could get in a situation where you want to hire somebody or bring in a partner or any of those sorts of things, and then you might find just because you like them, you make the assumption they're trustworthy and you hire them, and you don't do the background checking and the reference checking that you really need to. One of the biggest mistakes that I've made, and sadly made more than once, is getting in business, accepting money in terms of investors, or investing in myself, opportunities where I really did not get as much background as I could have about the people, and I could have saved myself some serious challenges if I had done that. So hopefully those are some good ideas for you. I've got one more, and then Daniel, I think you and I are going to wrap up on a few more points. Thank you guys all for your questions. If we didn't get to them, what I would suggest, if you post them to me on Facebook, I will definitely get on at some point and give you feedback. I'll do my very best to answer your questions if we didn't get to it here on the webinar. But I do have one here from Catalin, and she says, in project management, they say that you should write down your goals and final step, and then start going backwards, write down the steps of how you got there. Do you think this would work in business too? Yes. Let me Catalin, what Catalin's really asking is that can you, by knowing where you want to go, sort of reverse engineer how to get there? And I am a very, very big believer in that. So I think knowing your outcome is really, really important, and sometimes knowing how you're going to get there is not so important. The strange thing happens is that when you decide absolutely where you want to go, when you decide absolutely that you want business freedom, then what happens is that, first of all, you start noticing other people that have it, and a natural part of your mind, see, primates, we mimic. And so if you see somebody that's achieving what you want to achieve, there's a part of you that will naturally learn from them consciously. But here's the joke. If you have not decided what outcome you want, then that part of your mind won't know who to model, won't know who to look from. So once you've made the decision, yes, this is outcome, then your mind starts going, oh, look, this exact thing happened to me. I made a decision about a branding outcome that I wanted to create with one of my businesses. And as soon as I made that decision, I started noticing things around me, and that's when I first got introduced to Richard Branson. I was like, wow, he's a neat guy from a branding perspective. And immediately, I ended up learning some very powerful branding things from him and completely transformed my business. But it started with knowing what my outcome was. So, Catalin, I think you're right. It's really powerful to be quite clear on where you want to go, and from that to be able to kind of logically work back, okay, here are some of the things that are going to have to happen, but also now keep an eye on other people that are getting those same results and model and learn from and get mentored by those people. So hopefully that helps, Catalin, and maybe if we get to meet in person one day, we can have a longer conversation.
Okay, good. And did you have any more short questions, or should we, because time is running out? So.
I think we've got, let's see, you know, the chat system's not working all that effectively, so I don't think we do. I think there are some, but they've gone off my screen and I can't seem to bring them back up.
Then it's better for them if they want more answers, and they can send it on Facebook to you then.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you go to facebook.com/Eric Edmeades, you'll definitely find me, and I'll make sure that we get on there and get you your answers. In the meantime, Daniel, I'm sure you've got a couple of the other ones that we talked about before that came in before.
Yeah, yeah, because we're talking about business freedom, and you're gonna have a workshop here in Sweden, Stockholm, from the 27th of November till the 30th of November, 3.5 days. called Business
November?
Freedom.
I thought it was coming in the summer. What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry.
I really, in fact, Daniel, I actually leave tomorrow. I leave here tomorrow, and I'm headed to Norway first, and then, of course, yes, I'm on my way over to Stockholm.
Yeah, whew, good. I can relax. And it's called Business Freedom Experience, and it's a 3.5-day workshop. So can you please tell me and everybody else a little bit what can we learn in that kind of workshop?
Sure. Can I start with a slightly different take on this? And that's really to say, I want to kind of discuss why I do this, because I think that'll give some interesting insight into what Business Freedom really is about, and also give people a sense of what they can expect, whether they join us now in a couple of weeks or sometime in the future. I do what I do for two basic reasons. The one is that, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this, I discovered early on that I really liked mentoring. I really enjoyed mentoring and sharing with people. Then it taken to an entire new level, because a couple of maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, I got invited to do I got invited as a guest speaker to speak at Tony Robbins' Business Mastery programs. And I got the opportunity to work with so many people as a result of that, big audiences and people from all over the world. And what would happen is I'd have these conversations with people, and I would recognize very quickly that in a 5-minute conversation, I was having a measurable impact on somebody's life. And I really liked that feeling. I enjoyed it a great deal. And so about 2 years ago, my wife and I decided to make a really big shift in the way we were operating our lives. We owned a number of businesses in California at that time, another one in Vancouver. And we said, you know what, it's time to sort of start to divest out of those businesses and really focus on doing this. And so what happened at that stage is that I started saying, all right, well, right now, most of the coaching that I've done with people has been either speaking to a large audience, or it's been having lunch with somebody and having a casual conversation about what to do with their business. But I really started thinking about how could I really teach this in the very most effective way? How could I really share the experience of the mistakes I've made and just the shortcuts that I've developed and the distinctions that we've discovered over the years? How can I teach that in the most effective way? And this is important for me, because I think it's important for us all to get better at teaching anything. Because a lot of times people are good at doing things, but they're not necessarily good at showing them to others or teaching to others. And think about that as a business owner. If you want to stop doing one of the jobs in your company, don't you think you're going to have to get good at teaching it, right? And so what I started to take a look at is, what were the individual steps? What were the things that I was doing that maybe were a little bit unconscious to me? And so I started really taking a close look at that, and here's how I did it. I asked myself if I could go back in time and talk with me at 26 years old, right before I started my first business, what would be everything that I would want to tell me at 26 so that I could achieve business freedom faster? Because when I did my first startup, it took me about 6 years to get to business freedom. And the next time I did a lean startup, it took about 18 months. So clearly I knew some different things now. And so I thought, all right, if I could go back in time, here are the things. And I realized there were 13 core areas, and they included marketing and particular leadership skills, psychology, communication, how to hire and retain the very best people, how to assemble the best teams. There were just a variety of things that if I could go back and teach them to myself at 26, it could make all the difference in the world. And so we took all of those modules and we created this program called the Business Freedom Experience, which is a deeply intensive, highly interactive 3.5 business school. And it's funny because somebody said they compared it. They said, this is better than an MBA. And I said, I don't even want to hear MBA. Here's why. MBA stands for a Master's of Business Administration. And my view of MBAs are that I would like to hire people with MBAs. They've learned how to administer businesses. Now, what I would rather do is I would rather myself have a master in business ownership. And that's really what we did with the Business Freedom Experience, is turn it into a program all about business ownership. It's very interactive because there's a lot of team activity. For example, there's in combination with Inception marketing, there's another style of referral-based marketing that we teach people. And we teach it to them so practically that during the program, they will actually generate physical, tangible sales for their business. In fact, we did this program in Stockholm, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or so ago, and I think the winning team did something like, I wish I could remember what it was in local currency, but I think they did something like $30,000 US in actual sales during the course of the weekend to other participants, to people in the hotel, to people online, using things that we specifically taught during the weekend. It's very grounded, practical stuff. So people can expect to come to that program, first of all, have a ton of fun, meet really interesting other entrepreneurs, because business is supposed to be a team sport. It's supposed to be something that we go out there and do completely on our own. And on top of that, there's a lot of direct interactivity. In other words, when I work with the classes are not very big. I work very closely with the people going through the process, so they get a lot of direct one-on-one coaching with me, and it's really something I'm very proud of that we've created, and it's been very successful for us. And I'm glad to be coming back to do it in Stockholm again.
Yeah, we are looking forward to have you back again, so if you, the last question here, if you already feeling like, yeah, but I'm already started or maybe halfway to business freedom or something like that, or on the way on business freedom, is there any reason like why should they attend to that kind of event?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Daniel, even to this day, I am still a student. I am always out there learning better distinctions, and I believe that we should never stop being students. And so if somebody feels that they're firmly on the path to business freedom, absolutely, all power. I congratulate them. I hope I get to meet them. I also know that every time I go to a program, every time I sit with a mentor, I get distinctions that allow me to do things more effectively. They allow me to do things more quickly and more efficiently. And so all I can say is I've been very fortunate in business. I've had many failures. I've had many successes. I've owned companies in a very wide variety of industries, ranging from mobile computing, data capture, field maintenance and service in the retail sector, software development. I owned a Hollywood special effects company where we got to work on movies like Cowboys and Aliens and Pirates of the Caribbean and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. And I still own a business in America that does medic simulation for military medics and that kind of stuff. So what I'm kind of getting at is that really, whatever business you can bring to the table, between the businesses I've owned and the hundreds of different business owners that I've mentored, there are definitely going to be distinctions for you that are going to help you to do things quickly, more efficiently, more effectively. And also, Daniel, I think you know this because you've been to our speaking program. We offer a ridiculously safe guarantee. It's really, really simple. You come to the program, if halfway through the program it hasn't completely blown you away, I'm not talking satisfied. I'm not saying if you're not satisfied, I'm saying if it hasn't completely blown you away, if you can't already see halfway through the program that it's worth 10 times your time and money, then we'll give you your money back happily, no questions, and you can go. We were absolutely committed to getting you the result. So we come from a very strong place of confidence. Our clients range from fresh startups. We've even had people that don't even have their businesses yet. And then we've had other people that have hundreds of employees. And I can tell you now, no one come up to us at the halfway point and ask for the money back. If it happens, it happens. But it's never happened.
That's good. And it's a really good guarantee and like a safety. So that's very good. So hopefully we're gonna get some new people joining us on that workshop. And the price for that is 26,900. And for you viewers, we have a special offer that you're gonna get a rebate of 5,900 on the ordinary price. And we have can you get up the code that people can enter?
Daniel, again, the webinar system's not working as well as it's supposed to be. There is a clicking, there's a link in the corner of the chat bar if people have access to it. And
otherwise
so
I can tell you. Yeah, I can tell so the code is BFE, as in Business Freedom Experience, BFE. I don't know. Do you say, and then it's, I don't know the name in English.
Let's make it really easy for everybody. Let's make it really easy for everybody.
We're going to email it. Yeah.
We're going to email it out to you. Please keep an eye on your email. Check your junk filter just in case, that sort of thing. and you get a 5,900 SEK rebate on the program if you've come through from this webinar. And as I said, come for the first couple days. If it doesn't blow your mind, if it's not absolutely life-changing for you, no problem. I understand, and that's what the guarantee is there for. I hope I get to see you in person, and I really enjoyed doing this webinar. Thank you guys all for the questions you sent in. I really apologize if we missed them. There's some issue with the chat window here, but if you go to my Facebook page and pop questions on there, I'll definitely get to them. I'm also on Twitter, my name, and we'll take it from there. Daniel, thank you so much for your time and your energy, and it's been a real pleasure to connect with all of you. And as I say, I hope I get to meet many, many of you in person. There's still a couple of places left in Sweden, and if any of you are super hurry, you can even come and see us in Oslo next week. So, Daniel, thanks so very, very much.
Thank you.
I'll see you in a few days. Goodbye for now.
Thank you. Bye.